Welcome to episode 114 of Auto Off Topic. Hey, Brad, we've got guests tonight.
We do. Two guests. Not
Yep,
in-studio guests, both on a feed.
yep, we've got Mercedes Lilienthal and Elise Bent. This is Mercedes' second appearance on the show. Welcome back, and welcome to Elise. These two women recently competed in the 2018 Rebelle Rally, a 2,000 kilometer, so it's a traditional navigational challenge rally across the Nevada and the California desert.
Yeah, and we're both pretty interested in what happened on this rally and what this rally really is, because the pictures were pretty epic. The stories I've heard so far have been pretty epic, and it's just a pretty neat thing. Obviously, we couldn't compete in this, so it's a female-only rally, which is also interesting.
Yeah, so we'll just get right into it. So why don't one of you take the lead on this, and we'll ask you, what is the Rebelle
Well, I
Rally?
think we should introduce our guests first.
Okay.
So, Mercedes and Elise, if you both want to say, hello, Mercedes and Elise, so people know who's talking when you talk, that would be excellent.
Sure.
I'm
Yeah,
re-
yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for having us both. It's great to be back again. This time being remote versus in your basement, as I had done the first time. This is Mercedes, and I am living in Portland, Oregon, and I was the rally truck driver for the
Excellent.
event.
And my name is Elise. I currently live in Bozeman, Montana, and I was the navigator for this competition.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for coming on, and now we'll get right into
I
the.
was just super excited to get right into
Yeah.
it.
All right.
There's
So
lots of excitement to go around.
Yeah.
yeah. So we figure you guys can both, bounce off each other and figure out what's going on here, question-wise. We're going to ask the question, kind of as a generic to both of you, and we hope that you guys are, familiar enough with each other to figure out how that works.
Yeah. So, what is the Rebelle Rally for our listeners that aren't familiar with it?
So the Rebelle Rally is you kind of said it before, it's a traditional navigational challenge. It's an 8-day, 2,000 kilometer desert off-road competition that takes you across Nevada and California. You are basically collecting checkpoints where basically you're given the latitude and the longitude for a point, and you have to go and find it on these dirt roads using only a map and compass, no GPS, no technology. You actually have to hand in your phones and get them all taped up into a box, a tamper-proof box, and it's really, the terrain is it's gorgeous out there. We're doing long, 10-hour, 12-hour days. That doesn't include the time that we have to plot the points in the morning before we actually take off. And we are basically a team of two in our 2012 Tacoma that we used for the rally. And Mercedes was the driver. I was the navigator. And over the 8 days, we went out, and I think we did over 134 checkpoints, I think was what the number that I'd come up with over those 8 days.
Yeah, and Elise alluded to it being mainly off road, and so the terrain was varied quite vastly. So we had anything from gravel to dirt to steep inclines, declines, rock, a little bit of light bouldering, a bunch of sand, some sand dunes for a couple of days, a little bit of snow. Thankfully, the snow wasn't really on our tracks, but we had a lot of water crossings that were all over on our tracks. Eroded roads, trails, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, mud. Yeah, we had a little bit of mud because, at the end of the rally, you couldn't really tell what color the truck was anymore. But, you got to just drive through it and, drive strong. So, but yeah, so it was great.
Awesome.
How many people competed in this event total? How many trucks were there?
I think there were 46 teams or
That's a pretty good
45
size.
teams, I believe. Yeah, so they're all teams of two, and there were a lot of Jeeps. I think, obviously Jeep Wranglers, takes the cake when it comes to a lot of competitions as far as just, appearing in mass numbers. But there were different vehicles. There was a crossover section that had a cross-track, a Forester, a Cayenne, and I think it had an Outback as well. There were a couple of trucks, some Land Rovers, things like that. So there was a mix of different vehicles.
That's cool. Was it different terrain for a crossover vehicle, or was it the same for the crossover and for the pickup trucks and Jeeps?
It was different because the 4x4s had more capability. They did have a different track. We would see them here and there, but then again, with the 4x4s, we had a couple of different groups within us. So just because you were following somebody or you saw somebody, you had no idea if they had the same checkpoints as what we did.
Yeah.
So it was constantly varying, and so you just should not follow. And that was one of the things they kept on saying was, don't follow somebody else because they might be completely not knowing where they're going or in a different group, and you could get severely lost.
Yeah, and that's something we've certainly learned doing, TSDs, is you think you're doing the right thing by following somebody, and next thing you know, you're 7 directions off, and they had no idea where they were going, and we assumed they did. So we definitely understand that for sure.
Same type of thing.
Excellent.
And we had a lot of TSDs too. So they call them enduros or RECs. But we had those almost every single day in addition to finding all these beautiful checkpoints.
Okay, so it was a TSD inside of the rally itself, so like an event within event?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So basically, it was a way to transition between different checkpoint areas. And so basically, in between these different checkpoint areas, if we had to drive, for a couple minutes or an hour or so, it would be another way that we could accumulate points.
Okay, so that's pretty neat. So you had the point to point wasn't mileage based. It was just get there when you get there, pretty much, correct? And then the TSD part is mileage based.
Correct. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, and the TSDs were different. They had en route only TSDs and then en route and on time TSDs. So not only were you juggling, conversions from kilometers per hour to miles per hour if your odo's off and you're using your tear trip, which is a very exacting odometer, so to speak, you had to realize, okay, is it en route? Is it, timed plus en route? So there was a lot of different factors in addition to just doing the enduro to get you from, point A to point B.
That's interesting. It's a lot deeper than I thought it was. Looking into what I had read and what I had seen, it didn't seem quite as deep as that. That's pretty deep.
And I don't think we covered it. This is all for women only.
Yes.
The entire field was all women.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's all women. There were some men as far as support staff and mechanics and medical staff and things like that, and people that helped with the course and whatnot. But yeah, as far as the competitors, every single one of them was a woman.
So who puts the event on? Is it a sponsorship event or is it a charity event? What is the I guess point, not the point behind it, but what is the driving force behind the event?
So the founder is, her name is Emily Miller, and she's been a long time racer and rallyer and off-roader and huge in the motorsports industry. And so she really wanted to create, and she did the Gazelles over in Morocco, that rally that was over there, among a lot of other Rebelles. Which is another rally for women. I've not done, nor has Elise done it yet. But she wanted to create a rally here in the United States that was very challenging, but dedicated to just women and being able to showcase their abilities. So that was kind of, this is now the 3rd year that the Rebelle Rally has been in summation and been going on. She does have major sponsors. They're all noted on their website. I know Hohen dealership, they're one of the premier sponsor. Gosh, they have so many others that are too many that I can even think of off the top of my head. But yes, so it is sponsored, but you do also pay your registration fees as a team and be able to go in order for you to qualify to compete.
Awesome. So I guess we'll backtrack a little bit. What are your backgrounds and what interested you both in competing?
We'll start with Mercedes.
Yeah, okay.
So my background's kind of a very interesting, different background. I professionally am a commercial interior designer and project manager turned full-time automotive and off-road freelancer. So a lot of different things that I do. I made the switch back in, in mid-April, May-ish, and decided to do this full-time because I started, going to a lot of the different events, the off-road and overlanding events, started getting vehicles and building out vehicles with my husband, Andy Lilienthal, who works at Warren Industries, started doing a lot of different events, building our own personal vehicles, getting another 4x4, and just really enveloping myself with the culture, getting out there in the middle of nowhere, loving it, being self-sustaining, and that just really drew me in. And the people are so awesome in this whole industry and that travel a lot. And so I decided to kind of forego my desk job and say, you know what, I could always go back if I needed to, but do this full time. And so now I'm full time freelance as far as automotive, off-road adventure industry, social media, yada yada, all that good stuff. I messaged Elise, actually. I sent her a text message in April, and I said, hey, guess what? I'm really going to do this, because she and I were talking about this beforehand. And then she had replied back to me and said, you know what? You have no excuse now to not do the Rebelle Rally with me.
Do you have any motorsports background at all, or is this the first real kind of motorsports event you've participated in?
That's a great question. Not only was I brand new to off-road competition, I literally started basically driving myself off-road in our vehicles or in different vehicles, or the Tacoma that we ended up rallying right when I pretty much texted her and we said, okay, we're going to go ahead and do this competition. So what had happened was I was always the passenger or navigator when Andy, my husband, would be driving. So of course he works for Warren Industries, which is a big truck winch company and OEM manufacturer and accessories for off-road and recovery gear. So he'd always be doing the driving and I'd be navigating, or I'd be going out and spotting, for different events, whether they're Warren related or non-Warren related. But yeah, as far as myself in the driver's seat, I know a lot of the principles. I know how to use a lot of the gear, but driving myself, that's a different story. So yeah, I literally have been doing this just solely for doing this competition. So about maybe 6 months or so.
Wow, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty fresh, pretty green.
And Elise, what's your background as far as off-roading and
So
everything, or everything?
yeah, so I got involved in the off-roading industry through we love to do camping. I grew up doing a lot of outdoor sports and camping as well. And so when I met my husband, we started doing a lot of road trips and a lot of kind of more um, bigger adventures to find those elusive, solitary, epic camp spots. That kind of led us into the overlanding industry, where we started a business called Bomber Products. And so we started going to shows. We started doing a lot more events related to overlanding and some off-roading. And so that's kind of where I heard about the Rebelle Rally. At the same time, I'm also doing my master's in GIS, that's Geographic Information Systems. So getting a lot more familiar with cartography. I work with maps, every day. And so this was something that was really appealing to me, was getting to kind of apply that in a more recreational adventure setting. And so it also kind of motivated me to take the leap and start actually doing a lot more driving and learning a lot more of the skills, whereas I'd only done, enough to kind of know how to get out of the situation. Now I feel a lot like I spent a lot more time practicing and doing a lot more driving and feel pretty confident behind the wheel. So I would say it was probably about a year and a half ago that I heard about the Rebelle Rally and was planning on trying to do it last year, but it was a little bit short notice. So I had my sights set on doing it this year for quite a while now. So it was really cool to be able to take the leap and do it.
And like Mercedes, do you not also have any motorsports experience at all? Is this kind of all fresh to you as well? Had you
It was the
competed in any
very
season?
first thing for me. Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely no vehicle competitions at all.
No,
Yeah.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
You can go into something with having absolutely no expectations and kind of learn it from scratch on a grand
Right.
scale. That's kind of a
Right.
neat thing to have been able to do.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and during the whole time, before, during, and even after, Elise and I went in with the expectations like we're very new at this. I'm going to get her stuck. She's most likely going to get us lost. We did both of that. As long as we are flexible with each other, talk through issues, talk through any stresses we have, celebrate the victories no matter how small they may be if you're having a challenging day, and just do the best you can. And our end goal was to finish and finish strong, and no matter what that looked like, we didn't know. But hey, if we came in dead last, you know what, we're winners already, just being there, just getting to the starting line. Like a couple people said, if you're having a really rough day, you're there, you're doing it, no matter in what capacity. If your vehicle goes to shit or any of those kinds of things, or heaven forbid, if you've got any other issues, you're in the middle of being able to do this, and that's already winning. So everything is just icing on the cake, that's happened additionally for it.
That's awesome.
Very cool. So if we get, I guess, specific, were there skills that you needed to really develop to compete?
Beyond the driving
Yeah,
part of it,
beyond the
and
driving. Yeah.
or how did you
Yeah,
develop
so
skills for the event?
on the navigation side especially, there's not really anything um, kind of like it. So basically, to kind of take you through what the navigation aspect looks like, you are given a latitude and a longitude for a point that you then have to go find using only a map and compass. So um, you get a map and you get this list of latitudes and longitudes. So first you have to put them on the map. So you have to be able to convert those numbers onto, a spot on the map accurately. And then you have to also be able to kind of connect the dots between each of those points you're given to create a route plan for your day. And then you have to actually go out there and follow that plan or change it on the fly. And you have to use skills like dead reckoning, where if you can't tackle a point head on, you have to then go at it from a different angle and kind of measure, well, okay, so we're going to go 5 kilometers at um, you know 270 degrees, and then we're going to go back towards the point and another heading and another distance to kind of get to that point accurately. We have to triangulate to find our position to make sure that we're in the right spot. So that involves taking a point in the distance and finding out what direction that's in from you, and then kind of translating that onto the map. So it's all quite a lot of traditional navigation that a lot of people don't really know anymore, unless you've been in the military or you do, a lot of sailing or something, where you would have to learn those skills. So those were all, even though I was familiar with, cartography and stuff, those were things that I had to practice a lot because I don't actually do a whole lot of that in real life.
Well, and
So
it was a lot of getting in and out of vehicles, right? Especially
Yeah.
for her, because, even though I helped take bearings and things like that, I wanted to make sure to be in a moment's notice and be ready to go to drive. But what we did, even though I was primarily driver and she was primarily navigator, I made sure to practice and to learn. And I had never even held a compass before this competition. I'm like, a compass? How the heck do you do this? And I knew it was magnetized, like I had issues with like metal and stuff, but I knew nothing about compasses or reading maps or any of that kind of thing. And so for me, I did a lot of training to understand the real good, like basic to intermediate skills that she is doing. So God forbid something happens to her, if she's sick or if, she needs, if her brain's fried or her eyes are fried and she's like, okay, can you help me? Or can you, confirm that what I'm trying to do is right and things like that, that I had the capacity to do that confidently. I might be slower at it, but, I wanted to make sure that I knew what the heck she was doing. So if we needed to get out in a pinch and I needed help, that I could do so.
yeah, that's pretty wild. I reading up on doing research on this rally just so we could do this episode. I didn't realize how in depth that the navigation, like how involved it was. That it's very very old fashioned. Like that is, I mean that is harkening back, well before GPS was ever invented, and
Yes.
that's very cool. It's
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
and it's to be super accurate, to be that good at it. It was very eye-opening, realizing that this is how, and we had better distance measuring tools than even that they had,
mhm.
because we had really nice odometers. Um, so I can't imagine navigating with maybe not great maps and trying to figure out exactly where you are using all these tools. It seems
In the
very
olden
challenging.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean people used to fly airplanes this way and
Yeah.
sail
Yeah.
ships across the world. Like
Right.
it's
I
it's
couldn't even
Right.
imagine. Yeah, and here we are going on the internet and ordering our maps through maptools.com and buying our plotter off of Amazon and I
Yeah.
bought duplicates of everything that she had. So one of the rulers, like the 100,000 scale goes flying out the window. I had another one and she had another one. And so, we had duplicates and triplicates of everything just because we've heard from so many previous rebels that you're going to lose them in like the crook of your seat and you're never going to find it and you're going to lose your pencil and all this other
And
stuff. So
it's
yeah,
yeah,
and it
bad to lose
happens.
that stuff. Yeah.
So you mentioned you drove a Tacoma.
Yep.
Was this Tacoma a vehicle you guys personally owned? Is it your own?
Yeah.
Is it your own vehicle? And what class was that in? How the vehicle's
So
classed?
yeah, so the vehicle classes basically there's the crossover, which is all-wheel drive vehicles,
Yep.
and then there's the 4x4, which are vehicles with low range. Um, and there's also designations for bone stock, so those are vehicles that have not been modified except for the tires. And then the 40/30, which is vehicles that are over 40 years old, basically is kind of a nod to the 40 is the new 30.
I like
Um,
it.
Hmm.
yeah, and so the Tacoma that we are driving, it's my husband and I. That's our vehicle that we drive. It's actually my husband's daily driver, and then we also have taken a number of long trips and off-roading expeditions. So it's been pretty well built. Um, so it's a 2012. It's a manual transmission, and it's the Access Cab 6-foot bed. We have it equipped with quite a number of things. So we've got um, it lifted with the Old Man Emu suspension, and we've got 33-inch tires on it. And then we've got ARB bumper on it. We've got a Warn winch, factory 55 flat link. On the front, we have the Lightner rack, which actually they help sponsor us as well. On the in the bed, that is really nice for the storage and kind of organization. And then we have a CBI rear bumper with a rear tire carrier. Um, and that allowed us to bring a bit of extra recovery gear as well, like our Max Tracks. Let's see what else is on there. We have a snorkel. It's pretty top notch, well built. I don't know what else we would do to it.
So
It's
it's set
dialed
up
in
well.
beautifully.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've seen pictures of it. It's a cool looking rig.
Yeah, that's a good setup. Nice, reliable truck with it sounds
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
Mhm.
beautiful to drive. That thing is a
Yeah.
beast, man. I'll tell you, that's an awesome thing to drive.
Yeah. Super capable.
A little more power than you're used to Mercedes with the old diesel Mitsubishis.
Yeah, well, there's power up high. The power band's completely different than the turbo diesels that we have.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting driving a right-hand drive stick shift manual with the diesel in the dunes here because we practiced a lot, and obviously I practiced a lot with driving with Andy and whatnot, and so having the low end torque and the power. And then, getting in the truck and then having to shift with the opposite hand and a left hand drive and having it be gasoline and having the power be, with the revs way up high. So it was completely different. And obviously it's like three times the length or, at least twice the length of what the
Yeah, it's a
Pajero
lot
is.
longer than the Pajero for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very different. But it was fun nonetheless. It was great.
That's super cool. So when you're driving the rally, how do you score? Do you score points, and that's determines your position, or do you need to get lower points? So we're used to TSDs where you want to score as close to zero as possible because that
Right.
means you're on
Right.
time. So basically, how do you better your position during the rally?
So
So
it's a most points wins, and you accumulate points by finding checkpoints, getting as close as possible to checkpoints. So there's, and then also for the enduros, getting as close to the exact time as possible. Um, so for the checkpoints, to kind of elaborate on that, so there's the green, blue, and black difficulty levels, sort of like a ski run is ranked. And so the green checkpoints, they're pre-plotted on the map. So you just have to figure out which one's which. So that makes it a little bit simpler. And then they're a huge green flag. So once you can see it in the distance pretty well. You know you're there once you see it. And then there's the blue checkpoints, which are not marked on the map. You have to plot them on the map. And they're usually marked by either a smaller blue flag or a blue pole that's really hard to see. But again, once you reach it and you see that point, you know that you are at a checkpoint. Although sometimes you have to make sure that it's actually yours and not the other groups. So if
that
you're
was
doing a good job of navigating, yeah, then I mean, it was fairly obvious most of the time where it was, if you've only gone 2 kilometers and then on the map it said you should have been going 8 kilometers to find it, you're like, okay, it's probably not ours. Um, But those ones were pretty straightforward as well, although sometimes kind of hard to find with those poles. And then the black checkpoints are not marked on the map, and they're not marked on the ground either. So basically, they're a bullseye, where the more accurate you are, the closer you are to the center of that bullseye, the more points you get. So there is a on the checkpoint guide that you get every morning, it'll tell you so maximum of say 8 points, and then for every and that'll be for a diameter of I think it was 50 meters usually, and then every 50 meters or 25 meters outside of that bullseye, it goes down by another point. So it was sometimes worth it, to just try and get as close as possible, not worry too much about trying to get the full points if we were in a hurry. But if we knew that we could get it, then we'd be really taking our time to try and make sure we got to as close to the center of that bullseye as possible. So those black points are kind of really what make or break, and those top 10, who's placing where is really determined by those black checkpoints. And then for the enduros, basically each during instruction, or every couple of instructions, there'd be like a timing point where there'd be someone sitting there with a timer, and so the closer you would get to the on time, the more points you'd get. So if it was a maximum of 5 points per timing spot, then if you were more than 5 seconds off, then you lose a point. More than 10 seconds off, you lose two points, and so on and so forth until you get to so far off that you get 0 points.
Okay, so as far as what you just called it, the enduro portion, that would be like the similar to a TSD style. What
Mm-hmm.
what kind of directions did they have for those? Are they like traditional TSD tulip style notes?
Yes,
Or
they are. Yep.
okay, cool, that's interesting.
And I guess my only other question is, how do you prove that you are at the checkpoints?
They
So
have
we
a
have a
tracker.
tracker. Yeah.
Okay, it's like a GPS tracker.
Oh, okay.
That's
Well,
interesting.
there's two different trackers. So what's interesting is they have a tracker on your vehicle. So and what's really cool is even though we can't see it because we don't have any technology, all the people that follow along with Rebelle Rally and there's live tracking online can see all the teams and where they're going to and where the checkpoints are. It's really, really cool. So they have a vehicle tracker, but then we have a handheld tracker. And so Elise and I would both, like, one of us would run out, and we literally, you have to like push the up button for, I think it was 5 seconds, and it would count down. Then it would say sending. And then once you have a little one at the bottom left of the corner, that means that it went up to the satellite, it tracked it, it sent it, and it logged it. So, but they already know that you're there because the vehicle tracker shows that you're there, but you still have to track it, and then you have to write it down. They literally gave you paper and pencil for you to write down your coordinates, the time, and everything. So in case you needed to contest something, or if there was an issue, or heaven forbid something happened with the tracker, or they lost the information, you had a paper copy.
So the
Yep.
vehicle tracker shows where the vehicle is, so they know you're in the
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
spot, but you still have to
Yeah.
log that you're there, so you know that you're in the right spot. So
Yeah.
they know that you know you're in the right
Exactly.
spot. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it sounds like they're going down to the meters,
Yeah,
how
that's
close
cool.
you actually get to this.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean,
Right.
you'd walk
And
right
then
up, or you'd drive right up to the actual flag or pole itself, and like I would touch it all the time because, of course, I didn't want to be 1 foot away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
No,
I
I,
wanted
I
to touch
understand that
it.
for sure. That's
Yeah,
pretty
right.
cool.
and
This
that's
is
the
Right.
thing
way
too.
deeper than I expected.
Yeah.
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 That's the thing too, is that you can't always drive right up to the point if there's other vehicles next to it,
Yeah.
or there were a few that we got as close as possible, and then it was a bit trickier driving than we really wanted to deal with, so I just hiked up to the point and then clicked the tracker up there. And so that's totally fine. The vehicle tracker is really more for the public to view, and then also for dispatch to kind of see where you're at.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
also sounds like a
Whereas
safety.
that handheld, yeah, exactly. Whereas the handheld tracker is really where you're saying, this is where I think the checkpoint is. This is, what I'm saying my answer is. And then they say, yep, you're right. And then it'll tell you, actually, once you press the button, it'll tell you your coordinates just for the
Yep.
last point that you logged. So you can, if you're way off, you can actually then kind of get yourself back on course, which is nice. Or you can just, be frustrated that you can see right away, basically, that you didn't get it, or that you got it. So it's a bit of immediate feedback.
So this is like a
Well, and
hybrid. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just was going to say with the vehicle tracker, another thing that is worth mentioning is, they will know exactly where you are. So, if there's any medical issues, if there's any mechanical issues, if you're really, really lost, I mean, you do have a satellite phone as well, so you can call in the sat phone. You'll get penalized for it depending on what the issue may be, but they can also penalize you if you're going too fast, or if you're, having other issues, or call you if you may be driving into a bombing range or into a military base, which has happened. Which has
Hmm.
Yeah.
happened multiple times. And so, they'll there's like a whole entire sheet long. I can't remember if it was letter size or legal size. It's like size like 4 font or 2 font. I mean, super, super small, of all the different penalties. And a lot of it is based on driving or this or that, or showing up late to drivers meetings, or all of these different kinds of things. So it's really legit. It's meant to make sure to keep everybody safe and keep everybody on time and on schedule.
That's cool. It's like a hybrid like overland trip slash TSD slash geocaching. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
cool elements to the whole
Yeah.
thing. I like it a lot.
So when
Yep.
you're,
Yep.
I guess my another question would be, when you're finding the checkpoints, there is no time limit to that during the day. You just try to find as many as you can without
There
obviously
is.
going too fast.
So it
Well,
depends on the day. So some
yeah.
you have to look at every checkpoint has an open and closing time. And so some for the most part they're fairly generous. And actually we had some days where the closing time was the same for every single one. So basically you have 10.5 hours from when you leave your start line, find as many as you can. There were other days, though, where there were some points that had very aggressive closing times. So you had to move very efficiently to be able to make those closing times.
And what was interesting is with all of these checkpoints, like Elise had alluded to, greens are mandatory, blues and blacks are optional, but you have to get them all in order. So, for instance, you have 22 checkpoints in a day. There's no way, and Emily will say this, there's no way, even the best top teams will not be able to get all the checkpoints all in one day, but you have to get all of the green checkpoints. So a lot of it was strategy and time management, which was brand new to both of us, mainly me. I learned a lot of what to do, what not to do with the time management, because, it helps you to plot as much as you can, then spend a couple of vital minutes together to look at the map to go, okay, which ones should we throw out? Mind you, we have to get all the greens, but what blues and blacks can we throw out, get the greens, go here, go there, or do we want to, do this in the morning, or do you want to throw away something in the afternoon, or, so a lot of it was strategy to be able to do that. Mind you, you have to pay attention to A, the order, B, the open and closing times, and C, making sure you get back before your deadline, because base camp every night was the last checkpoint, and you had to make sure to go there before your closing time there.
Interesting. So between all these checkpoints on your maps, is it obviously you're off road? Is there marked trails, marked roads, like fire roads? Is there stuff you can use, or is it pretty much in an area where you could choose the path of least resistance if you wanted to? Or, I mean, it's totally up to you, right? You don't want to get your truck stuck either, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the most part, they were open trails and tracks and roads, a lot of washes. I can't even tell you how many dozens and dozens of washes, like dried riverbeds that we drove through, that was a way to be able to get you to where you needed to go.
Oh, yeah. Especially in Johnson Valley.
Oh my God, it was all over the place. It was pretty crazy. But the one thing too is they'll penalize you if you go over, and they'll see you do this via the tracker if you go over a lot of vegetation. So you have to be very cognizant and make sure that it is a designated track or wash or opening, or obviously sand dunes is a different animal. The sand dunes, you can go anywhere. It just don't fall into a witch's eye, or drive off a huge slip face or something. But that being said, everything else is pretty regulated, but of course the terrain was very different and challenging or easy, or, it varied quite a bit as far as the difficulty.
See,
I have one quick thing. So we don't have sand dunes to play in. What is a witch's eye?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Witch's eye, I didn't even, what's funny is we have them in Oregon, and I didn't even know what a witch's eye was, because we really don't have them here. So witch's eye is basically when there's like a big depression in these in the sand dunes. It kind of goes in and goes all the way deep in, and you could get pretty well stuck. And at least correct me if I'm wrong, if they're always firm ground, or if they could be really loose
No.
sand.
It doesn't,
In the
yeah, it can
very
be either or. Basically, it's instead of being like a taco shape where you could basically go out on one side, they're, like cone shaped or bowl shaped where if you're kind of stuck at the bottom, you have to go up to get out. And when you have to go up to get out, it's really, really a lot more difficult than if you can just kind of
yeah.
go flat or go down.
So it
Well,
looks.
and they vary in size. You can have
Yeah.
very small ones, or they could be absolutely massive, and you can't get a running start because if there's a really deep small one, I mean,
Or
you
there's a
pretty much
tree
have
in
to use
it.
a pole pal. Yeah, or if
Yeah.
there's a tree in it or something, you're kind of, I don't want to say screwed, but screwed. So, we ended up bringing a pole pal. We have the Warn winch, so pole pal was one of our sponsors. Warn was as well, but we did that plus Max Tracks. And thankfully, the only thing we had to use, I got us stuck twice, but we were able to max tracks out. But we wanted to make sure to be prepared should we end up in a witch's eye because Elise, the closest dunes that are by Elise are St. Anthony dunes, which are a little bit more of what Glamis is like. But here in Oregon, you've got Central Oregon dunes that are in Christmas Valley that I've been to, and then the rest is all coastal, which is a completely different animal than the sand dunes in Glamis.
So witch's eye be like almost look like a drain of sand, like where it would spool down, kind of. If you could describe what it looked like.
like an
Yeah.
like an ice cream cone or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
totally.
like a flat bottom end, and it can be really, really deep. And it usually they're kind of more roundish, and then you just have hills on all sides.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Now
don't
that
get in them.
now that you're describing it, I've seen it during Dakar coverage, and those giant Iveco trucks like get stuck in it, and they're pulling each other out of them,
Right,
and all
right,
Yeah,
kinds of stuff
right.
like that.
exactly.
So you
That's what
had
they're called, or at
yeah
least that's what they call them over
yeah.
here.
So you had recovery gear, but are teams allowed to help each other if they're stuck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's encouraged that if so we had to bring glow sticks, we had to bring orange triangles, and they also said to take your max tracks if you have extras. Let's say if you're really stuck, but you're in a witch's eye, or if you're at the bottom of a really big sand dune and you're worried because I mean all the sand dunes are open. You could have a side by side coming barreling over and like land completely on top of you. So the other thing we said is if you have extra max tracks, go hike up to the top of the biggest dune and put it up in a teepee, like, put them up together so that it draws attention, like, hey, there's somebody down here. But you're encouraged, whenever we see somebody stop, we're encouraged to just be like, roll down window, hey, okay, or thumbs up, okay. If they're thumbs up, great. If they have hazards on, hey, do you need help? And we're encouraged to stop. And that's part of the camaraderie in the community that the Rebels have is, there have been a lot of people, especially at Glamis, digging each other out. I mean, heck, we did it and we had it happen. And, almost everybody got stuck from what I understand at Glamis, but that's what we're there for.
That's awesome. So you alluded to your base camp having to be there on time every night. What was base camp? Was it a camping situation? Were there hotels? Was it where did you stay in between days?
So it was a huge wall tent, usually, and then we would basically have our tents in a little tent town right beside this huge wall tent. And so the first base camp that we had was Kingston Canyon. At a kind of a venue, so there was like a little cabin also, where they had food laid out, and
It was a
we had
little
our
bed and
morning meeting
breakfast.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, bed and
but
breakfast
we
is what I
also
remember.
had we also had a big tent shelter, and then we did camp in our tents there. And then after that, it was just a massive wall tent with tables and chairs. So it was very well decorated actually. So and there were always snacks and water, and there were bathrooms. They had a shower and toilet trailer, and then they had some porta potties as well. So there weren't enough showers to be able to take one every night, but it was actually extremely comfortable for a camping situation, even though we were, in fact, camping in our own tents.
So I assume
Len, we have to get.
it
Oh, go
was
ahead.
oh, okay. It was a different location every night, or the base camp was the same location every night.
Almost every night. So I think there were 2 or 3 nights where we had 2 nights at the same base camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mind you, we ended up having to go from the north end of Lake Tahoe, mainly off road, all the way down close to the Mexican border. So we had almost
Wow.
1,600 miles we had to traverse.
Okay.
In the matter of 8 days. 7 days were actually, pointed day, like counted days for points. But then day zero was the actual practice day, but that was still kind of involved in getting us to where we needed to go.
And I guess the last
Yeah.
question related to that is, did You guys, were you responsible for setting up your own tents, or did you have teams that went ahead and got you all set up for the night? Did you have to drive all
Oh,
day
No,
and
we did
then
all
build
our own
camp, or
stuff.
was there a?
no, no, we did all of our own. And we have to give a huge shout out to Shift Pods. So Shift Pods is a husband and wife team, and they've got some really, really cool tents. And so they were one of our sponsors and set us up with cots and tents. And they set up in a matter of like a minute and a half. So we had their little Shift Pod mini version. But what was interesting is when we came into base camp at night, mind you, we had to click the tracker right when we were, going underneath the arches. We had 1 hour. What that 1 hour entailed was Elise literally jumping out, grabbing the stuff she needs, her gear, the camping gear if we needed to set up camp that night, and I would then attend to the vehicles. So we had a fuel station from Amber Fuel Services. Busby was awesome and his team. And so I had to get gas every night. And then I went through and I checked everything, checked the air filters, checked the oil levels, checked all the fluids, went underneath the vehicle, made sure that there wasn't anything leaking, and then grabbed everything that we needed to for that evening. So we learned very quickly, don't leave important things in the vehicle overnight, because after that 1 hour is up, they take your keys and they quarantine the vehicle. And that's basically to stop somebody to say, oh, I really need to fix this, or I really want to do this, or God forbid, sabotage somebody else's vehicle. So I learned very quickly what not to do, because for whatever stupid reason, almost every night I left something critical in the truck that I needed. One day it was my pillow. The second day was my headlamp, which I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I have no headlamp and it's dark, and how am I going to go to the bathroom? And, the third day I had my sunglasses on, didn't realize, with all the hubbub and grabbing everything, I forgot to put my regular glasses on, and I'm
Oh.
blind without them. And I'm like, oh crap, I've got my sunglasses on, the sun is setting. Thank God on my little runner backpack that I have to go back and forth, my tent in the truck, I had my spare set of eyeglasses. So, and then I think one day, Elise, didn't you leave most of your rulers in there? So the next morning you had to wait. You couldn't
I
possibly.
did.
Oh.
It was awful. That was so
So
stressful. Great
I think
weekend day.
yeah, that was
Mhm.
kind of crazy.
That was day 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
So you live and you learn certain things. And for me, it was just whatever reason, I just couldn't get the semblance for me to be able to just pack right and be like, all right, the critical stuff I need. And then boom, the hour's up and then you're done.
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, you're probably like, you're still kind of like amped up with adrenaline. You're tired
Oh, yeah,
too, and you just can't quite
totally.
think straight, right? I mean, how long were these days? Like 12 hours? Is that
12,
12 plus,
12
yeah.
plus? Wow.
So
yeah,
you
I mean, the drive
wake up
portion
at
of one.
5.
Yep.
Yeah, wake up at 5, plot for 2 hours, drive for 10.5 hours, get ourselves set up at the end of the day for about an hour, hour and a half. And so those are long
Yep,
days.
13, 14 hours. Yeah, by the time you eat dinner. And then a lot of the times we had meetings at the end of the day, so that were mandatory. So, we had half an hour long meetings. And then by the time, 8 o'clock rolls around, you start seeing it spin out very quickly because people are like, they want to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's a heck of a vacation.
For sure.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What kind of were you allowed any outside support at all, or is it all has to be self-contained?
It's all self-contained. You well, you have support, not outside support, but you have support. You could call on your sat phone. Let's say if you're out and you have a medical or a mechanical issue, you can call your sat phone and have them. But if they come out, you again are penalized potentially for it. So, let's say if there's a mechanics issue and you can't get your rig fixed and you need a tow or you need somebody to come out, which has happened, that could be a penalty. If there's a medical issue, I don't think there was any major medical issue remotely this year, but that could be another penalty thing. So there is support, but it's all inclusive. And during the transit days where we had an actual gas station that we could fill up with, or grab snacks at or something, they're designated. So you cannot deviate. If you deviate and let's say go to, I don't know, McDonald's to grab something for food or this or that, or go to a different gas station, you're heavily penalized because these places are already approved and you cannot be hopping on the internet and you cannot be doing this or that or grabbing whatever, the gas station person's phone or something and making a call. I mean, that's like, grounds for disqualification.
I really want to keep it analog.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Our
Very
ethos.
much so. Yeah, you had your own quarantine packages. Like I had an old banker's bag, like a little, I don't know, 9 by 12 or something bag. When I did commercial design for one of the banks down in California, and they were just, dissolving a building, and then they are like, hey, I had all of these bags, and I thought, well, may I have one if they're just going to throw them away? So that ended up being my bag for my cell phone, but that was the only thing of technology I had. I had my old school Canon T2i camera, which had no GPS, had no Wi-Fi. I bought a used lens off a camera shop because you can't have anything greater than a 200 zoom. So that they looked at, they said that was
Oh,
okay. So because a zoom could be used as binoculars
yep,
potentially to look
yep.
for checkpoints. So Elise had one too. They were a little iffy on that, Elise, but I think yours had the capability to be upgraded with GPS, but yours
Yeah, you
did
could
not,
add
right?
a unit. You could add like a little chip to it or something, and
Right. So
Oh,
they were
but it
strict
almost
didn't
rules.
have
not
it.
going to
Yeah,
let her do it. Yeah, they were almost not going to let her have her camera, and she's like, "But it has nothing." And at that
yeah.
time
You
when we were
can't turn the
checking,
GPS on. You literally it's
yeah.
grayed out. Yeah, so it was
And so with her
was
phone and her
interesting.
stuff, she had a box that she bought, and they literally taped it
Hmm.
up with packaging tape, and then like do not open tape that was like white and red. And I mean, you had to show that almost every day. And they because mine was a banker's bag, they zip tied it shut. So they're very serious about you not getting in your phone.
It sounds it.
Well,
Hmm.
no, and then otherwise, I mean, it's not in the spirit of the event to
Mm-hmm.
do it
Right.
unless it's an absolute emergency. Obviously,
Right.
you
Yeah. In which case, yeah, then you're not concerned about
yeah,
losing points. You're concerned about
exactly.
getting out safely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
safety. Right, exactly.
Very cool. Um, so what was your finishing position?
So, I'm sorry, the position that we finished with for the rally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did really well. So there were rookie teams in the 4x4 class, and then there were returning rebels in the 4x4 class. So Elise and I tied for seventh place out of 21 rookie teams. So we placed within the top third.
Awesome.
And yeah, which we're super stoked with. And then as far as the 4x4 overall, so including a lot of the returning rebels, we placed mid pack. And I think there were 12 or 13 returning rebels that were in front of us. But of course, they've done it before. They're more seasoned. They've done competitions before. And a lot of them have done other different off road competitions in addition to at least one previous rebel. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that was pretty good for us. I was pretty happy.
Yeah, just it sounds like just finishing is a victory in itself, and actually being mid pack or top third in the rookie class is pretty good. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, considering that neither of us have really driven much, but off road ourselves beforehand, and are brand new to off road competition, I'd say we did a bang out job. So I can't complain.
Yeah.
Awesome. We may have covered this a little bit before, but was there any new skills or confidence that either of you took away from the event?
I will say, so I felt like I'd gotten a pretty good grasp on the fundamental skills needed to complete the Rebel before showing up. But it's a whole other animal putting them all together. And doing that, for those, 14-hour days for 8 days straight, when you're tired and you're frustrated and, you know, things happen along the way. So that was really, really eye-opening. And it's something you can't really learn it until you do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think Emily, in all her wisdom, has kind of said this, and I really believe it. That if you want to win, it's a 3-year plan. First, you have to learn how to finish. So for us this year was learning how do we get to the finish line? How do we play the game? What is this all about? How do we put everything together? And then the second year is okay. Now I know how to get to the finish line. Now I'm going to try. I'm going to play to win. I'm going to compete to win. But with the expectation that you're going to push yourself, you're going to challenge yourself, but you're still going to have a lot to learn and kind of finessing all of those skills. And then year 3 is really where it's kind of the um, where you really have the chance to win. If you're really, doing everything right.
Yeah. And for me, I think the biggest takeaway was, since I'm very varied with 4x4s and driving 4x4s now, giving me the confidence that I can hop in a different vehicle and understand, in a very short amount of time how it reacts, and take those principles that I know so well off road and be able to apply it to whatever vehicle I drive.
Excellent. So this obviously sounds like you guys are planning on doing the rally again.
Heck yeah.
All right, that's awesome.
Sweet.
Need to figure out how to figure out the cash bit of it.
So that's another question I have for you. Not specifically the cash bit of it, but if somebody wanted to get involved in this event, how do they go about it? Is there an application process? Is it limited? What's required to participate in the event?
There's a limited number of teams that can compete, but it's really it's open to everybody. So the only real requirements signing up is that by the time of the competition, you show that you either have off-roading experience or you've completed an introductory class, and that can be either a class that's put on by folks at the Rebelle or kind of approved instructors, or it can be something that is in your community that's held by a club or something. Just as long as you can kind of have someone vouching saying, yeah, they know how to use their vehicle, at least at a basic level for off-road driving
And they need
for
to be
recovery equipment.
And they also need to be a woman, as we've discussed before, but they also need to have either a crossover or also, if not a crossover, then a 4x4. Whether it's rented, like Nina Barlow has rented several JLs this year to competitors, owned or borrowed or sponsored.
Okay, and as far as sponsorship,
really,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I would say, but really, to sign up to get your team numbers, I mean, there's really no requirement. You can get all of those things kind of along the way.
So you mentioned the cash flow. I know it costs a good bit of money to enter the event.
It does.
Are you allowed to have 100% sponsorship? Does it need to be paid for by you? Is there any rules as far as raising the money to compete in the event?
It all goes. No, there's
as long as it's legal.
Combination.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. As long as it's legal.
As long as it's legal or presented as such, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, you can have, you can be a trust fund kid. You can, take a loan out. You can get sponsors. You can take it from your savings. There have been people that have become Lyft drivers that I understand that have done it part time and raised money that way throughout the year. Host parties for fundraising. We did a GoFundMe, and we're doing a couple of after parties for our team. But there's a whole host of things, bake sales, all sorts of different things, and they'll help you along the way with that too. So as far as us, people are, we're more than happy to talk to people, so you can contact us, and we can go from there and answer any questions that anybody might have if they're interested in joining.
And I think along with that is, are you open to new sponsors? If somebody listening wanted to sponsor you guys next year, could they contact you and do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
For sure. And it's as far as us, we want to make sure that it's not just, hey, give me money and this is all it is. We're very, very cognizant and sensitive to what their needs may be. And so we've written up different varying levels of sponsorship, and we're open to customizing anything. So whether it's content generation they want, or social media posts, or photography, or all of the above, or, just, hey, if you're at this event, talk about us, or, all different kinds of things. So we're open to that. And especially with me being full-time freelance, along with Elise being in the off-road industry, we're already embedded in a lot of this. So yeah, we're totally game to help whoever with whatever they want to get out of it, being a sponsor of us.
Kind of a you help me, I help you deal.
Exactly. And I will say the caliber of photographer that attends these events is really, really incredible. We've had some amazing photos. And one of the things that we offer our sponsors is exclusive commercial rights to a selection of photos, depending on how much they're donating.
Excellent.
That's awesome. So I guess that'll take us right into, before we wrap up, is, do you have current sponsors that you'd like to plug, and anyone you'd like to thank? And of course, anywhere that you would like our listeners to follow you on social media?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a list of sponsors. So, of course, Bomber Products for supplying the vehicle, Crankshaft Culture for media coverage, photography, publications, and also donating the helmets. Shift Pods is as we've mentioned before, they're one of our premier sponsors with the cots and with the awesome tents that we had. Tommy's window tinting, based in Portland, Oregon, or just outside of Portland, did an awesome job designing and doing the wrap and also the window tinting for us. Lightner, as Elise had alluded to, they're the truck bed and rack company. Let's see who else. Overland Cruisers out of Montana, out of Bozeman. They're the awesome guys and mechanics that made sure they replaced the clutch, timing belt, water pump. Just did a tip to tail, really, really awesome job of making sure the vehicle was ready to go for the rally. Pull Pal in regards to land anchors and support for us to make sure that we're unstuck if we get stuck, especially if we have no tree or anything to be able to winch ourselves out with. Max Trax is another sponsor too, with Max Trax recovery boards. Tribe One Outdoors, they are a Utah-based company that has really awesome cargo and bungee cords and kind of netting containment systems to keep your gear all in one spot. Drink Tanks is another one as well. So Drink Tanks is really cool. They have growlers and pint glasses that are double-walled stainless steel, and they actually gave us a bunch of product that is embletized with our Team Free Range Dames logo that we're selling on our website, www.teamfreerangedames.com. So if you wanted to get some swag like t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, or a growler or a couple of pint glasses, come on over to that website. And then also Warren Industries. Let's see. Yeah, Warren Industries, and then Mac Designs. She was the gal that did our awesome logo.
Great. I don't think we talked about your team name. I love your team name, by the way, which is
Thank you.
Yeah, Free Range Dames. So, yeah, is there anywhere we can find you on social media?
Yes. So we have a website. It's www.teamfreerangedames.com. And then we are on Facebook and Instagram as Team Free Range Dames. We also, on our GoFundMe, it's gofundme.com/Team Free Range Dames. And our email addresses, if you want to get a hold of either one of us, it's either Mercedes or Elise at teamfreerangedames.com. So all pretty straightforward.
Great.
And we also have a YouTube channel with pickup truck and SUV talk too. That's a dedicated playlist. That I wanted to give a shout out to Tim Estradal. So he's been covering us. We've done 4 episodes on YouTube, which is video on us. And then also I wanted to give a shout out to all the countless family and friends and supporters that we've had along the way. With the sponsors, and especially our family and friends and supporters, we wouldn't be able to be here and to have done this without their help.
That's great. Man, that was great hearing about that. Thank you for coming on to the both of you, and congratulations on your finish of the Rebelle Rally. I mean, that's like a big deal to just finish an event like that. We had some friends that over the summer they had bought a rally car at the beginning of the year, and then they competed in their first stage rally and finished it. Same kind of thing. It was just like it was all about just showing up and making sure you finish, and that was the biggest thing.
Just getting out and doing things.
Awesome.
Yeah, just getting out and doing things
Awesome.
is amazing. And it's an inspiration to everybody who's listening that wants to do stuff like this. Like, if you see something that you want to do, I mean, dig out and make it happen.
Yeah, just go do it.
You only live once, That's what they say. So.
Yeah, you guys nailed it right on the head. I mean, for us, like I said, I decided to give up my desk job, my corporate desk job, and do this full-time as far as full-time freelance. But as far as driving myself, off-road, I knew a lot of the principles, but heck, I've never done it before. And, literally practicing. And like I said before, never held a compass before. How the hell do you use this thing? I don't even know. How do you even hold it? I seriously had no clue. And for us to get that far along in about 6 months of time, everybody starts from somewhere. I keep kind of coming back to that. Everybody starts from somewhere. And, we're more than happy to help anybody if they're interested, or if they don't want to do something as massive as Rebelle and they just want to get into off-roading. Heck, contact us. We're more than happy to help, or just talk to you or tell you what works, what doesn't work for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to post some of these links in the show notes.
For sure.
And I think that's a podcast. I'm going to wrap it up here.
Yeah, so guys, hang on one second. We're going to close up our end here.
Yep.
And
so as always, you can follow Auto Off Topic on Facebook, Auto Off Topic Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Auto Off Topic. Follow me on Instagram, Race and Anger. And Brad, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the much needed to be changed handle at TSISS350.
As always, Keep your cars analog and aim for the roses.